podcast on Audacity. So, welcome to another episode of the In the Hot Seat podcast. And on this week's episode is basically a rewind edition and talking about the other pay per views that I didn't get to really fully talk about, and then maybe some that I'll actually go back on and actually review. And then also talk about WWE Hell in the Cell, which concluded on Sunday, the final pay per view that was able to be in the Thunderdome, thank God. So now, right after that, within the next couple of weeks, the fans will be coming back, and that should be definitely very exciting and dopeness right there. So, not only am I live on Twitch, but of course on the podcast as well. So, Twitch basically getting the live exclusive first before the YouTube channels and before it goes officially on the podcast for Anchor and Spotify and wherever else you're listening to the In a Hot Seat podcast. So hopefully you guys enjoyed your weekend and everything. I know I sure did. I was able to actually go to the beach for the first time since last year. So even though it was kind of short, I still enjoyed it, and I always enjoy being out in nature and out on the beach and everything, and that's always fun. So getting right down into it and starting things off going way back now, way back into WrestleMania and everything, and just how that happened with um, the nights being actually split up and everything um, to two nights. So I don't know if they're actually going to be doing that again for the upcoming WrestleMania and beyond, and I feel like it actually was actually better just having it just one night as it is, and not so much split up. I always liked having NXT around that weekend and everything. Of course, the Hall of Fame. Just having it be one big weekend that way. With my own honest opinion on that, so that's just how I feel about it. So I'm gonna actually try and bring up the results and everything, so that will actually be talked about as well. So let's see. I think it would be appropriate, obviously, start with night one and then get right into night two, and then so on and so forth. So let me actually pull that up right now if I can. But in all honesty, like how I felt about it, I felt like more night two was definitely one of my favorites out of the night. Going back into WrestleMania, especially having the fans back, even if it just was for WrestleMania itself, it was definitely refreshing and everything. Since we were dealing with no fans and dealing with the Thunderdome and then dealing with the Performance Center wrestlers as fans, so there was a little bit of that for a while, and then obviously how they got things to be in the Thunderdome, which has been interesting experience, but it's definitely not the same. Definitely for sure. So this is not in any particular order when it comes to that. So basically, where we had Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. So this feud has been going up for quite some time since WrestleMania and everything. And with that being said, these two always have a good match, no matter what, whether it's a singles match or what we've seen too with their Hell in the Cell encounter, which I will definitely be getting into talking about as well. But Bobby Lashley, basically being champion for quite some time already since then, especially, he's actually really doing well. I like him as a heel. He does a lot better as a heel, in my honest opinion. So I always like heel Bobby Lashley there. Then we get into where we had the women's tag team uh, championship number one contenders match for night one, and then we get to see who will actually face the tag team champions going into night two and everything. So basically, where we had at the time the Riot Squad, Liv Morgan and Ruby Riot. Before Ruby Riot, she unfortunately had a release. Same thing with Billie Kay. She was dealing with Carmella at the time, which I thought would have been fine. It was definitely kind of a random pairing, but I kind of wanted to see where it went. Also, Naomi was with Lana until she unfortunately was released and everything, so that was still pretty weird to see her be let go, but we'll see what happens where she's going to be ending up next, or maybe end up coming back. That remains to be seen. And of course, Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke were able to be there for that one, and to see who will be able to move on and everything with that. So, the match, we also did have Tamina and Natalia on that one, and they ended up winning number one contenders match there, and to go on into with night two. Then we had Cesaro and Seth Rollins in this one. This one has been a really cool feud, definitely for sure, and I've been loving the push for Cesaro on this one and everything. And Cesaro was able to actually have his WrestleMania moment and move on, at least try to anyway, from Seth Rollins there at the time. The New Day and taking on AJ Styles and Almost for the Raw Tag Team Championships, and Almost basically in his first match basically on the main roster and at WrestleMania. So AJ Styles and Almost actually getting the Raw Tag Team Championships and being champions ever since. And then when we had Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman, which was there at the time before he too was able to get released. And I have a feeling he might actually end up coming back and still finish things off, but we'll see if he goes to AEW on that, which that has been heavily rumored and talked about. But at the time, he was able to face Shane McMahon and in a steel cage match. The build-up was kind of amped, but the actual match itself actually surprised me and everything. And Braun Strowman actually getting the win there, so you can't really go wrong with that. Then when we had The Miz and John Morrison taking on Damian Priest and Bad Bunny, and this is where Bad Bunny definitely shined for sure. I thought, he actually went out there and trained very well, and he actually felt like a part of the roster. You would never expect that he's a singer and everything, so that was really cool and well done. So having Bad Bunny with Damian Priest actually, did very well. Even if he wasn't with Damian Priest, I felt like he would have still shined anyway. So that was really cool how that turned out. So very happy on how things went well with Damian Priest and for Bad Bunny there. So they were able to get their win. Then when we had the SmackDown Women's Championship match with Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, definitely one of my favorite women's matches of the year so far, going back and forth. And we haven't really seen Sasha Banks far too much since then after that and everything. And Bianca Belair obviously getting the SmackDown Women's Championship and being champion ever since then. Afterwards, what she has been doing, fine and everything. So, giving her that actual long enough run with the championship and to see who will actually be able to try and stop her next. That remains to be seen. So now I'm gonna get into looking to pull up night two for results and everything. If I can get that up. Okay. All right, night two. And then that was one of my, like I said, favorites of the night for the whole weekend, basically, for WrestleMania for that time. So waiting for this to actually pull up here and try not to let scroll too much. So let's see. All right. So again, and not in any particular order, the triple threat match, definitely one of my favorite matches of both nights, really. Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, and Edge on this one. Couldn't wait to either or, honestly. And, just the chemistry and everything, was definitely there for sure. Roman Reigns, once again, actually standing tall and keeping his SmackDown Universal Championship at the time, and it still hasn't been able to be beaten. So it's kind of almost hard to tell to see, other than maybe like Kevin Owens or something like that, who might actually be able to stop him and everything. So that remains to be seen. So there is that. Then we had The Fiend and Randy Orton. The match going into it and everything else was fine. Just the ending was definitely weird on that, for sure. The Women's Championship match where we had Rhea Ripley and Asuka on this one, definitely my favorites there. And Rhea Ripley being Raw Women's Champion. Also, we had United States Championship match, Riddle and Sheamus and everything. Over time, Sheamus actually getting the United States Championship. The Nigerian Drum fight for Intercontinental Championship, where we had Big E and Apollo Crews on that one. Of course, Apollo Crews doing well with the Intercontinental Championship. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, those two always really have really good chemistry and definitely fight forever classics, basically, on that one. So that was definitely one of my favorite matches of the night. Definitely for sure, especially for night two. Also, when we had the women's tag team championship match, again, the winners were able to go on to night two. So basically, Natalia and Tamina taking on Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, even though they retained. However, obviously, Natalia and Tamina would get their moment as well, which is definitely well deserved too. Afterwards, I wish it would have happened at WrestleMania, to be all honest. But with that being said, it is cool that they still are holding on to the women's tag team championships even to this day. So that's basically it with night one and two on that. Then we get into obviously the next one, the next pay per view we had WrestleMania Backlash basically, and the kickoff where we had Sheamus and Ricochet on that one, and of course Sheamus was able to get his win there. So they're actually looking to have the kickoff matches actually be more meaningful a lot more lately, which is a good thing. So, it doesn't have to be far too random all the time, which is good. Then we had the Women's Championship matchup, Rhea Ripley and Asuka and Charlotte Flair. Triple threat match as well there for the championship. And Rhea Ripley actually able to keep her Women's Championship and to be able to move on, and of course, to the point where she's been dealing with Charlotte Flair most of the time now. Then when we had the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler taking on Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. They've been teaming as of late, which has been really cool with the Founders and Tag Team deal. And Rey Mysterio and Dominic actually getting the tag team titles, which I wish would have happened at WrestleMania with the fans and everything, but it is what it is at this point, and at least they were able to get the tag team championship, so can't really complain far too much on that. Then we get into, which is kind of a weird match, just by how when Damian Priest and the Miz, the Lumberjack match, and basically having the Zombies promoting the movie at the time for Batista. So wasn't really needed with the zombies and everything. So that was kind of like a what the fuck kind of weird type of vibes there. But in the end, Damian Priest actually winning the match, and the Miz being eaten by zombies and end up coming back somehow, some way, magically. I guess not everything in life makes sense, but hey, I guess it is what it is. Then we move on to better things after that. The SmackDown Women's Championship match, Bianca Belair and Bayley on that one, and those two have been still feuding since then, as of yet, and everything. And those two are definitely one of my favorite matches for sure. I've been enjoying this feud, and Bianca Belair still remaining the SmackDown Women's Champion there. Then we get into the WWE Championship match, where we have Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, and Braun Strowman. This match was actually pretty cool. Definitely to see who would be, who would be standing tall and everything out of those three. Of course, Bobby Lashley actually coming back and retaining his championship and standing tall there. And the Universal Championship match, which is cool that we had Cesaro in that type of match against Roman Reigns to try and stop him and everything. It's been a long time coming since Seth versus Cesaro had this type of match and everything. And even though he came close, but Roman Reigns was able to obviously come back and as well retain the Universal Championship at that time. So that was basically WrestleMania Backlash in a nutshell as well. So kind of getting through these pretty damn quickly, and then we move on to AEW for their side, for AEW Double or Nothing for their pay-per-view and everything. So that's another thing I didn't get to fully touch bases on. So every once in a while, I'll probably do the rewind on this one, and I figure it'd be like a cool thing to get caught up and everything. So and this one for AEW, where we had the Inner Circle dealing, um, with the Stadium Stampede against the Pinnacle on this one. Obviously, the first Stadium Stampede was actually a lot better. That's usually how things go, but this one wasn't too bad either. And they're making it work, to the best of their ability for the second one. And the Inner Circle actually taking out the Pinnacle, which is cool, makes sense on that, on everything. And I'm sure the Stadium Stampede will be a matchup that we will be seeing over time. Also, getting into the notes, after a while, we could see Mark Henry actually join AEW and everything. So he's not really wrestling right now, but just like doing other things as of right now, and kind of like a basic WWE Legends deal type of thing. I don't think he'll be actually wrestling. Maybe we'll see. Who knows on that? But that's really cool that um, Mark Henry was able to be there as well. And then we get into the matchup for Kenny Omega for the AEW Championship, where we had him face dealing with Pac as well as Orange Cassidy there. So that was an interesting type of matchup, especially for Orange Cassidy dealing with a World Championship matchup and everything. But in the end, obviously, Kenny Omega retaining and keeping his AEW World title. Then we get into Sting and Darby Allin and Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky with this one. And it's been really cool seeing how things are going with Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. And they've been actually working really well as a team, especially with Ethan Page dealing with Josh Alexander for a long time on Impact Wrestling. So dealing with a new partner. So they actually meshed well with Sting and Darby Allin on that and had a really cool match there. And having the Sting and Darby Allin definitely win there. Then we had, of course, Britt Baker and as well Shida on this one. Shida has been wanting to deal with fans for a long time, defending her championship. She was basically able to get that, so it's cool having the fans back as well. And this was one of the matches I was looking forward to the most, definitely. I really, really wanted Shida to retain and keep her title, but she had the title for a long time, so it was understandable. And having Britt Baker actually get the win and actually getting the championship, so that's dope. Can't really go far too wrong with that since I like both women. So even though I want Cheetah to retain, but it is what it is there. Then we had Miro and Lance Archer for the TNT Championship and everything. A pretty interesting match too, especially between these two and everything. But Miro actually not letting Lance Archer stop him, so Miro actually retained and actually kept the championship. So there's that. And Miro has been doing really cool things with the TNT Championship, and definitely a long time coming for Miro being a champion. Cody Rhodes and Anthony Ogogo had their match and everything, and Cody Rhodes was able to get his win there. Jungle Boy, who has been on the roll lately and everything, where we had basically in the Casino Battle Royal, and we did have the likes of Matt Hardy on this one, Christian Cage, who I really wanted to win, but I'm sure he'll be able to win one at another point in time. Of course, dealing with Pirate Party on this one, we had Leo Rush, who ended up actually having his basically last match and ended up retiring, which kind of sucks there, and was not expecting that whatsoever, especially since joining AEW. So that kind of sucks. So hopefully we'll get to see him at another point in time, but definitely thank Leo Rush for sure on everything that he's done. But Jungle Boy actually winning the Casino Battle Royal there, that's been cool. Can't go wrong there. And then when we had the Young Bucks and John Moxley and Eddie Kingston, I was hoping they would actually have John Moxley and Eddie Kingston, win and come back, especially dealing with the Young Bucks for quite some time. But the Young Bucks actually won there and everything. Then we had Adam Page and Brian Cage on this one, dealing with Brian Cage, dealing with Team Taz and kind of like teasing it split up and being on his own, which is cool. I actually would like to see that, and he's more of his own anyway, like a loner type, I guess, at this point. And him and Adam Page and Brian Cage actually having a cool match and being able to have Adam Page get the win there. So there was that. Also, on the buy-in, basically the NWA Women's Championship was on the line too as well. So Serena Deeb was able to defeat Rio there. So that was cool for the buy-in and for the NWA Women's World Championship. And I think, yeah, that was basically it at that time. So those are all the matches for AEW for Double or Nothing. So I wanted to, be able to talk about that since I didn't get the chance to fully yet. So I had to add that on there. And then if I can pull up for the next thing for Hardcore Justice and for Impact Wrestling, and that was at the time during WrestleMania weekend. And it was crazy. It was on the actual day before WrestleMania itself actually got started. So I want to say it was around in the afternoon. So that was definitely something new. But it was cool that I actually had that weekend filled up basically with pro wrestling at that time. So other things that we did get to see, the X Division Championship, the X Division Championship, I believe, was on the line. And trying to get the results right here. Okay, so X Division Champion Ace Austin there. We had Matt Fulton and TJP, followed by Jess Alexander and Peely Williams, and basically all those guys being able to go at it and everything. So with that match, definitely not a disappointment, definitely for sure. And to see who will move on, and actually Petey Williams actually I believe getting the win, if I'm not mistaken. And actually, Alexander forces Bala actually to submit and everything. So, just Alexander actually being able to, I believe, get the win there. Where we had the next match. Very rare that we see a chairs match not in WWE but outside WWE. On this one, we had Shearer and Hernandez on this one and everything, and it was interesting to see that too and how that went down and everything. But definitely seeing the use of the chairs quite a bit, where we had Hernandez, I believe, not actually getting the win, but Shearer actually coming back and actually was able to win there. Then where we had Doc Gallows and being able to deal with Black Taurus on this one, and has been very impressive too with Crazy Steve and everything, and having their fair share of problems. But actually, Doc Gallows actually coming back and standing tall there. So there's that. Then when we had Johnny Swing and Matt Cardona in the Mystery Crate match, which is pretty crazy in itself, and everything, and basically came in handy for Matt Cardona. One of the Mystery Crates actually having figures in that, so that made sense there on that one. Sammy Callahan having the open challenge then afterwards against Sam Beal on that one, and obviously having Callahan being able to take advantage of that and actually be able to get a win there. Brian Myers and Jake Something in the Hardcore Blindfold match. I don't really care far too much for blindfold matches and everything, but they did the best that they can. They didn't really need it and everything. And actually, Brian Myers was actually to try and get the win, but Jake Something actually comes back on that one, so being able to stand tall. And then we had one of my favorite matches of the night, definitely for sure, the number one contenders match for the Knockouts Weapons match, where we had Rosemary, Talia Dashwood, Jordan Grace, Alicia Edwards, of course, Havoc on this one, and Su Young all on this one. Seeing Su Young come back basically was definitely worth it and everything. And to see who will actually get the number one contender spot, and then Tennille able to stand tall there. So that was really cool. And still hoping Tennille Dash would actually gets the Knockouts title. It'll definitely be a long time coming. Then we got into Deanna Perroza and Jazz, basically title versus career, and to see if Jazz would actually be able to get the Knockouts title before she left and everything. But unfortunately, she didn't get it, and Deanna Perroza was actually able to win and retain there. And Jordan Grace in full support of Jazz. So basically, her last match definitely for Impact since then. So definitely thank her there as well. Definitely for Jazz. Then we get into the matchup with Violent by Design, Eric Young, Joe Doring, Dina and Rhino, and Team Jammer, of course, which won Billy Mack and Eddie Edwards on that one. And Trey ended up being the mystery partner there in that one. And really cool way to basically start things off and basically hardcore war and everything between this teams and everything. Um, But of course, in the end, when everything was said and done, Violent by Design obviously gets their win. So that basically, in a way, I guess you could say, makes sense on that. Even though it could have went to Trey's team and everything, but that was basically it in a nutshell. And then obviously we get into with last night with Hell in a Cell and getting with my thoughts on that as I'm trying to pull things up on that again, the final pay per view before fans come back and everything. So, for what it was overall for Hell in a Cell, I wouldn't say it was great. It was good. There's only like one thing I really didn't care for and everything, but I will say I am happy that things with pay per views don't feel too one sided and things are looking to be a lot more meaningful. So, it did go right back into one match after the other that way and everything, so I didn't feel too out of control crazy on that. And I like now that the pay per views are going back to the 8 o'clock time slot, which is really cool. I actually did miss that, so that definitely has been refreshing so far. Hopefully they'll keep that up. But anyway, we get into Mandy Rose and Natalia. I think this was an interesting, cool match for the kickoff and everything. And Mandy Rose trying to get into get the tag team championships, but this was a singles match and everything. And Mandy Rose maybe actually want her to go back to doing singles and everything to see how she'll do. But I like her with Dennenberg, so Natalia actually getting the win there and defeating Mandy Rose. Then we got into the SmackDown Women's Championship for the main card and the Hell in a Cell match for the first one of the night. Bianca and Belair and Bayley on this one continuing their feud and everything. And we definitely saw some weapons used on this one, especially that crazy spot with the ladder. That was cool there. And Bianca and Belair actually retaining, which can't go wrong with that. Would have been cool to see Bayley win, but Bianca Belair definitely makes the most sense and to keep her championship. I'm kind of curious to see who will actually face Bianca Belair next going into Money in the Bank and onto SummerSlam. And then we had against Cesaro and Seth Rollins in this one. Cesaro looking to actually stop Seth Rollins again, but in the end, Seth Rollins does come back and defeat Cesaro there. So Seth Rollins actually was able to, stop Cesaro this time. Then we get into Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler on this one. These two still continue things, especially with Lily basically being in the mix with the doll and stuff, and being at the side of Alexa Bliss and actually ends up winning there. And then we have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn continuing things. One of my favorite matches, definitely for sure, for Hell in a Cell. And actually, Sami Zayn actually winning there. And of course, those two not to disappoint. The Raw Women's Championship, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair on this one. This one, I definitely feel like it's definitely going to continue. I feel like maybe there'd be a stipulation going into Money in the Bank. I can kind of see that happening, especially how things went down towards the end of the match and with the announcer table cover actually being a weapon, which is really weird. And then we had the disqualification, which I don't really care for on pay per view. So Rhea Ripley ends up retaining the Raw Women's Championship. And then, of course, we didn't have the Universal Championship match. Of course, we had that on SmackDown, which was definitely unexpected, and I thought that was kind of strange, but it's actually kind of cool at the same time. Rey Mysterio and Roman Reigns having to be at SmackDown, and they definitely went all out there, using the weapons and everything, and Roman Reigns retaining. I kind of want to see that feud continue. I think that would be really cool, honestly. And like I said, I thought either Kevin Owens or something like that would actually face Roman Reigns, but having Rey Mysterio be that person to be able to deal with Roman Reigns now. So that's been actually really cool. So I can see another match. If not Rey Mysterio, then maybe Dominic might actually step up and actually defend his father and actually want the championship match Money in the Bank. I can kind of see that too. That's just me kind of wishful thinking and everything, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Then we get into, of course, the main event, WWE Championship match, Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. And in this one, with that little stipulation, if Drew McIntyre didn't win, then he would actually have it harder for him to get his rematch and everything against Bobby Lashley, as long as he is the WWE Champion on that, and Drew McIntyre doing everything that he can to actually get the championship as much as he could. But we saw the chairs and everything else, the crazy sit-out powerbomb on this one. We saw the kendo stick, the referee being laid out at one point too as well, MVP getting involved. But in the end, obviously, Bobby Lashley retaining, so making it a lot more harder now for Drew McIntyre to actually get back there and get the championship. And he tried again on Monday with the whole qualifying match and everything for the Money in the Bank ladder match, but wasn't really exactly successful there. And now basically in a waiting period, maybe he'll get drafted to SmackDown, and that might help him there. So I can see that with the draft. I believe it's going to be incoming very soon, so that's definitely going to be well needed. So that's basically it on the rewind, as I like to call it, and getting caught up with everything else that I didn't get to talk about, and including for Hell in the Cell that happened on Sunday. So all that in a nutshell, basically, I ran into one big podcast. So definitely, what are your thoughts that has been going on with pay-per-views as a whole lately from WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, and beyond as well? So again, yeah, definitely looking forward into actually going into wrestling shows again. Again, so far the only one is WrestleCade as of right now in person. I'm still waiting WWE wise and AEW, and it would be cool to actually go to my first AEW show. Hopefully this year, if that does happen, I don't know. I don't really see it for in any one of the areas as of right now for me, but I will be on the lookout for that. So that about does it for this week for the In the Hot Seat podcast. Definitely appreciate your support and keep on checking out the podcast, showing your support, liking the pages, the videos, and whatnot, and talking about it on Twitter and everything else on YouTube and all that good stuff on all the socials. And let's keep up and growing the In the Hot Seat podcast. And hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day and your week. And until then, I'll catch you guys in the next podcast, whatever the hell that next podcast may be. Till then, I'll catch you then. See ya and peace. All right, so. All right.